Director. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be joined today by Representative Collins, Senator Garner, Senator Hendren, Senator Dismay is here as well, President of the Senate. And Director Bryant to the Arkansas State Police. Delighted to welcome to Arkansas Director Chris Cox of NRA and Speaker for Legislative Affairs. Thank you for joining us, Chris. And Representative Bob Bowden, I failed to recognize you. Thank you for joining us and for your work on House Bill 1249. I have just signed House Bill 1249. It is now been signed into law, and I wanted to discuss the legislation briefly and acknowledge the hard work that's been put into place by the legislators that are here. Charlie Collins particularly has worked on this through multiple legislative sessions and has been persistent. He's been a strong advocate of the ability to carry firearms in public campuses. We've worked with him, but also Senator Garner, Senator Hendren has picked up the mantle and worked diligently. It really worked out a compromise piece of legislation that is consistent with my view of how firearms should be handled in sensitive areas. And let me just underscore that my history a little bit, and that is that first of all, I was at Homeland Security after 9/11. And there was a big raging debate in our country as to whether we should have more firearms in sensitive areas such as airplanes. And we passed a law that allowed the flight deck officer to be armed. And it was a great controversy. A pilot's going to be armed, it's inconsistent with flying. And we had the training requirements in place, and it's enhanced security of our airplanes. And then after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, as Chris Cox knows, I worked with the NRA. I worked with the Secret Service as to what we should do to further protect our school children. And so we did enhanced training requirements for school staff and gave them the option. And so I've consistently recognized that there is first of all, a Second Amendment privilege, but also a security and safety benefit from firearms by people who are properly trained. And so it's been a consistent view of mine. And so when this bill came forward and there was an argument, there was a need, a will of the General Assembly to have firearms more broadly on our campuses, I say we have to have an enhanced training capacity there, an element to it. That was ultimately negotiated and agreed to. And it's important for the public to understand that there's now two levels of concealed weapon permits. There is the one that was created in 1995, in the 1990s, and there's 4 hours of training that was required. Everyone was arguing that the sky would fall, that no one knew how to do this and use it, and that we're going to be unsafe in Arkansas. And history has demonstrated, and experience has demonstrated, that it's worked well. And so now we're moving into a new arena, a new area of change, but we're guided by the fact that while we'll have a new permit that will allow enhanced carry, it requires more training. And I've asked the Director of the State Police to be here because under the legislation, the Director of the State Police will design up to 8 hours of training that will be coordinated with our universities and our law enforcement community on our campuses, as well as other public institutions, to develop a training program for this enhanced carry permit. And so the public should not be confused that everyone with a concealed weapon permit is going to be allowed to go into sensitive areas. That is not true. It's going to be a much more limited population, but they will be trained And obviously, they'll be trained in active shooter circumstances, how to coordinate with law enforcement. And when that is done, I'm convinced that the public will be more safe. We will have more safety in our institutions and our public spaces. And so that is the rationale of my signing this law, but also of the negotiations that took place to balance Second Amendment privileges and to enhance those that want to be able to exercise their Second Amendment rights, but also to, when you go into sensitive areas, to have this enhanced level of training that will be very important.